Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome back to the market update video. Let's just begin straight away without wasting any time. So let's just pick up every sector one by one and see what we had discussed yesterday and how it played out and what can happen tomorrow in every sector, right? I've just taken the sectoral indices. I've not taken the thematic indices because they're a mix of stocks from different sectors, right? So if you want to do the same thing, you can on the other FNO stocks or even mid caps or small caps, you can just do the same thing. Suppose if you want to do the same thing on IRCTC, you can just select, you can apply the same concepts of where the trend is developing, how much space is there to move and all that stuff, and you can do it on other stocks as well. I just focus on sector oriented moves in intraday because those are the biggest moves that usually happen, right? And you have a lot of confidence to trade as well. So I will discuss a few of my trades along with discussing the indices as well. So let's start with the metal index. So metal index, the view was bullish, right? Because it has taken out this supply already, and it was also at the daily demand zone, right? It was also at this daily demand zone. So the view was very bullish on the metal index, right? So what happened in what we are expecting in metal index, if it breaks out and it comes back down and forms a base. So it did form a base, but this was still on the downside, right? This is not really your VCP contraction or any entries like that, and there was a lot of space around this demand. So what we wanted was, we wanted metal index to build around this demand, right? And it tested the demand at last. So tomorrow, what can you expect tomorrow? Now this area is tradable for a long side, and if I show you an interesting thing which happened here, is all these breakdown traders, whoever took the breakdown on this on the downside, they probably will get shaken out, since the stock has since the index has already reclaimed this breakdown high, this breakdown level again, and this is the supply. So tomorrow, any signs of bullishness can be traded to the long side, right? So let's check out a few metal stocks which are getting ready. So if you see Hindalco, nice little accumulation base right here, also entered above inside this base. So this was the previous base, and today it broke out and entered inside this base. So this is tradable for a long side till where it can go. So if I take till where it can go, it can definitely venture into this supply right here, which is, if I mark it, it will be something here. So it has already tested a bit of it, right? It has already tested. So any contraction kind of a structure here will lead to a move straight into this area. Of course, contraction doesn't mean that it will straight move out, because this supply, this can be distribution as well, because we're not really sure, because the demand is way below, right? So this can be distribution around these highs as well. So we have to see how it behaves around this supply, right? If it's distribution around these highs, I don't expect it to go down a lot. Maybe it will trade this reference range right here, it will trade inside this area, right? So I'll be a bit careful taking a long in Hindalco as of now. So let's see other stocks. Now see, this is a nice stock where you can take a long. So the view in this stock was, just a second. Yeah, so the view in the stock was that we will see after it takes out the supply, we'll try to take we will see some sideways action and maybe an up move later. The up move didn't come, but it is consolidating very nicely, right? And now this area is left for an up move, which is a good 10 points from here, right? So you can definitely look for Vedanta on the long side. This is much better than Hindalco actually. Now I'm not saying that this will go straight up. It can also gap down, right? Because of this supply right here, it can gap down and then it can convert into a distribution base as well. But since the current structure is permitting us to go long, since it's taking out the supplies one by one, the bias was bullish from here itself, right? And once it's bullish, you will have to take bullish trades. If it forms a top, that's a different story, but I will be trading along the trend. And also it's at the daily demand zone, so the value here is higher than this tiny supply at the 5-minute, right? So sale, yeah, sale is something I'll avoid. Why? Because see, now this is forming a distribution structure, right, around the VWAP. So immediately studying the price action around the VWAP, you immediately know which stock is trying to go up, which is trying to go through downside, right? So sale is bearish. Jindal Steel, see, this is also bearish, right? NMDCC, this is also a bit bearish, because look at the fall from this area, right? And if you see JSWC Steel, see, this is also bearish. So if you see, all these are tops created around the VWAP. See, other stocks did not really create any top like this. They were creating bottoms. So this is accumulation, but JSW Steel immediately came down. Probably some accumulation happened here, so maybe it does something like this tomorrow. So avoid this, right? Avoid this stock as well. National Aluminium, okay. So National Aluminium, if you see, this was entirely distribution here, and at the end, what happened? This demand kicked in, right? The demand from this base right here, it kicked in, and then the stock shot straight up, right? So now why is this happening? Because the trend is on the upside. So if you see, See, this is the trending structure. So this is the pivot around which my trend will change. You can use this for exiting your positions, but just to declare that the stock is in a downtrend after breaking this demand, I don't think that's the right thing to do. And now if you see, when it's trying to bounce from the demand, it is changing structure on the 5-minute as well, right? This structure was changed here after this breakout, and from here you only look for longs, right? So it has tested this previous supply right here, which is this previous distribution base. Now I won't really look for longs in this counter. Now Tata Steel, see, it was already at the distribution base, did not really break out of this supply which we had talked about, and immediately started falling, right? So all these were short entries. This was a short entry, this was also a short entry, and finally this was a short entry into the day, into the previous demand area, right? So for a long trade in the metal sector, I'll be looking only at Vedanta, right? That's it. Other stocks will probably be range bound. If Vedanta, if it has to be bullish, then it has to be Vedanta. So after the metal comes PSU Bank. Extremely we were bullish on this sector, right? And the view was, if I hide the candles, see, the view was that it will come up, it will go up into this distribution base and it will fake out, and this is where we will short the weaker stocks, right? But that didn't really happen until the day end. So see, this is the area where this thing happened, right? But the view played out very, very nicely. This distribution base acted as it should have acted, right? And now it has created a distribution structure, so you can short it tomorrow again. One good short was Canara Bank. Let's just check the PSU banks, the 3 PSU banks which I shared. See, SBI, the view was to short at this supply, worked out very nicely. Below the VWAP, distribution has happened again. Canara Bank, if you see, the view was to short at this supply. Look at the beautiful dump on the morning itself. Let's see if we had an entry. I did not really trade this, so no entry here. Sorry, no entry here, but definitely there was an entry here. At this continuation move on the downside after this rollover, you could have shorted this here. A bit far from the supply, this short, but still the view worked fine. So, but still, if you're not making any money with the view, so I don't think that's of any importance. So Bank of Baroda, again, if you see, Bank of Baroda, actually we were bullish. Why? Because there's a lot of space on the upside. So you see, it did not really fall that much. It went up and stayed above the previous day close for almost the entire day before coming up and closing here again, right? So this is a very bullish kind of a structure in Bank of Baroda. So don't try to short this tomorrow, right? Even though it looks like distribution, but there is no signs of the price trying to go down. So don't short this tomorrow. You can look at it for a long trade in Bank of Baroda. So Nifty Media, our view was that once it has taken out this base, we can look for a long around this demand zone, or maybe at the lower demand zone, right? So price stayed at this demand zone for a long time, but it didn't really create any base for an up move, right? It did create a tiny little base right here, but it did not really break out or change structure or anything like that. So there was no long entry here, but our view is still bullish on Nifty Media. Why? Because look at all this sell-off is not very motivating. It's very slow. It grinded its way to the downside. Does not really look like any impulse move here, right? And one stock which we had discussed in Nifty Media was Z Entertainment, and the view was to go long out of this base into this supply, right? The distribution base was here. Let me just draw it till here. So actually this entire base is the distribution area, and my long entry, so if I just delete everything, so the view in Z was to take a long in the morning itself, right? So let's just check out how that played out. So see, my long entry was on this candle. So after you see one attempt to break the supply, doesn't work out, second attempt, the price just stayed here. This was my long entry, right? So never take the first attempt to break out when the price tests the supply, right? Never take the first attempt, wait for the price to go back again, and then just sit there, and that is when you take your long entry. So anywhere here a long entry is good. You get a move, but then it starts to roll over from this supply. So don't expect the stock to behave exactly as you want, just expect to catch the initial direction. All right, so this entire base actually worked out, and this is where it started to run around. So I was watching this very closely, and I exited around here itself. So this was a nice little 1:1.23, I guess, because it didn't really move that much. 1:1 something, yeah. Did not really move that much, so that is a sad story. But this doesn't change the structure as such, because this is a no participation day, right? See, it's very far from the VWAP, so we had discussed this as well. So it can spike back up in the morning again, but again no longs, because I would have preferred taking longs if something like this happened. So no longs in this sector. This one tried to work out, but did not really materialize into something. Now Nifty reality, the view was that if it breaks out of this supply, we'll take a long. The breakout never happened. It just came down and started tanking. You'd have taken a short, but honestly, I would have avoided because of all these bases here, right? Now tomorrow, what can happen in Nifty reality? Nifty media, the view for tomorrow, I don't think there's any, because it will spike up and probably trade inside this range again. So Nifty reality, if you see, unless it contracts near this base, I'm not taking a long in the stock. All right, I'm not taking a long in the stock. This is the first test, right? It's successful. Now the second test, probably it will contract, and I'm not taking a short as well, because now this is building up bases like this. So expect this to be range bound, not really move a lot tomorrow. So you can ignore Nifty reality for a while. The time will come. Don't worry about it. The time will come for Nifty reality as well. Nifty finance, I had clearly told you to avoid this one, because see, the move had happened and now see what it did today. So everyone who was buying the breakout got caught on the upside, because there is a supply right here. So don't expect it to break out immediately. But a good thing is that there is no selling. If you see this area right here, there is no selling at all. So you can wait for some kind of an action. So tomorrow what might happen is, from the open, if you see, this is the previous swing high, and there is definitely some demand zone here, because the swing high doesn't get taken out just like that. So there is a demand zone on the lower time frame. This is a swing right here, so this is a demand zone. So you can use this one, actually. You can use this one, this swing high as well. So tomorrow what you can expect is, you can expect a deep shakeout, something like this, and then maybe a sideways grind around this area. So this is also to be avoided. If it goes up, you can try to short this, because it is at an hourly supply, right? But it is bullish. It is at an hourly supply, but is it bullish? It is bullish. So you can trade, look for something like this, and then short here for a dip down into these demand zones. This is Nifty financial service, and if I check out the banks and the financial service stocks, you see, this is definitely not a short. So if I check out, see, this is a very beautiful accumulation structure right here. So let's see for some short side. One stock which was in my radar was SDFC Limited. Yeah. So look, this is a distribution, and this is the rollover again below the previous distribution base. So the stock hasn't made any attempt to go up. So this is very dangerous for SDFC. It can again do something like this. So you can look at this for a short trade. If it immediately goes and starts trading above this high, avoid it, because then to move on the downside, you won't have a lot of room left, right? It's not because the stock is bullish. It can definitely go up, trap, and then come down, but I will avoid it. Why? Because this will be an accumulation then. Maybe a tiny accumulation just to create this spike, but still accumulation, right? So I will take only the continuation on the downside. IndusInd Bank also looks weak. Let's check if there's a supply here. There is definitely this entire base waiting to destroy this on the downside. So let's see what happens here. If it has created a lot of liquidity above these highs, actually, right? So this supply is still not tested. So even if Nifty gaps up tomorrow, you won't really take a long here. Look only for shorts. Now ICICI GI, this one probably I'll avoid until these lows are taken out, because stock is, even though it's making kind of a distribution structure, it's not really making any move on the downside. Yeah, see, Kotak Bank, all this is distribution. So the guess was correct. Financial stocks are getting distributed actually. All this is distribution. So look for only shorts in finance tomorrow. Maybe a spike in the morning, and then a short towards the previous demand. All right, don't just short stocks which are at the demand zone. Wait for some move, room to move on the downside, then short that thing. Right. That is Nifty Finance. Nifty Pharma, see, the bullish view we had was here, but then the bullish view we had was it will break out from here, but then it came down in the morning. Okay, so the view in Nifty Finance, Nifty Pharma was, we'll wait for the breakout and we'll trade the trap of this short. But to get a breakout, there has to be some up move. So that is what I tried to trade today, and I'll show you my trades which I took in the pharma sector. So Auropharm I did not take. I think few of my mentees traded this Auropharm on the long side because it was sustaining above the previous day range with a lot of space here, right? What I traded was Sun Pharma. So if you see what happened in Sun Pharma, so my trade looked something like this. So see, the distribution base was already drawn in Sun Pharma, right? The plan was to actually short here. So you could have shorted this move on the downside, but I was seeing that all pharma stocks are trying to go up. So my trade, my long was right here. So if you see, what is going on. This is the previous distribution base right here, right? Has already tested it, so I should have probably shorted this one and went long in some other strong stock. So this was the base which I was watching, and the stock was contracting right here after creating a nice little base here. So this was the move, and this was a straight line move. Cannot expect more than that because there's a lot of selling here and then a selling here as well. And then I was waiting for this move to materialize on the upside, maybe tap into this supply, but then it started to roll over and I exited somewhere here. Another one was Lupin. It stayed for some time, I think. The entry was somewhere here, right? The entry was somewhere here. It was also trying to break out of this base, already trying to break out, and there's a lot of space on the upside. So it started moving nicely, but then it started rolling over here, and this is where I exited on this pin bar right here after the top started to fail. Torrent Pharma, you would have taken an entry here. I did not really take any entry, but you could have taken an entry here. Davis Labs still setting up nicely for a long trade. Alright, so Sun Pharma we have discussed. Glenmark is again distributing. Lalpat Lab doesn't look really that good. Alchem is one of the most bullish pharma stocks. You can have a view, have a watch on this one, but again, this thing right here, this thing scares me. Alright, so again, pharma stocks kind of looking not that good anymore. All of them are turning around. So no longs in pharma. The view remains the same. We wait for a fake out and then we short that thing on the downside, right? We wait for a fake out and then we short it. Nifty Energy, I had discussed this a lot of times yesterday. That you have to be bullish on this sector. And the stocks which I had discussed, if I remember, they were Reliance, definitely Reliance, because look at this, right? So this demand zone was immediately tradable on the upside, right? A nice little 1:5, 1:3, 4 at least. This was distribution, right? Ntpc also I told to avoid. So Ntpc, if you see, the view was that it will keep consolidating and you can take a long above the VWAP. Never came above the VWAP, right? Tata Power longs started to fail here. So why are these things failing? Because of all this. Look at this base. This is why it's failing, and this is why this is moving up very fast to this base, because there is nothing here. This is empty air, right? So now if you see, IOC is kind of looking nice, even though it's trying to distribute from this area. So if it takes out this high and then contracts, you can take a long in IOC. Still very bullish on Nifty Pharma and Nifty Energy, and these are, and Reliance and Torrent Power, and also Hind Petro. Yeah, also Hind Petro was a nice one. These are the stocks I'm most bullish on. So if you see what happened here, see, just look at this thing. Started to move up after contracting in the morning itself, but look where it rejected from, like right here. This is what happened. This will shake you out even if you are one of the best traders in the world. This is bound to shake you out, and you can re-enter here, right? So this is what I tried to do in Sun Pharma as well, but then then the sector started to turn around and did not really play out. Still very bullish on Nifty Energy. You can watch Torrent Power and Hind Petro for tomorrow for a long trade in Nifty Energy, playing out quite well on the upside. We caught the bullish bias in Nifty Energy on this day actually. So Nifty Energy, the bullish bias was caught here, exactly at the lows, which is quite a nice catch. Nifty Auto also, I was bullish on Nifty Auto. My view was that it will break out, it will try to move into this area, which it did move into this base. You see, it did move into this base in the morning itself, then started distributing on the downside, right? So now what is the view of Nifty Auto? I will still be very bullish unless this base is taken out, and this is a very thin price action on the downside, so you can take longs here tomorrow. Let's check out some auto stocks. So Escorts, nice little BTST entry right here, right? Look at all this. This is money served on a platter. This is very easy to trade all this, right? This one, avoid a lot of gap on the downside. Tata Motors also, you can avoid a lot of thin price action. Motherson Sumi, it is creating a base. Aisha Motors is looking really good right now. If you see, this is a distribution base here, right? And there might be some selling happening here, but if it takes out this high and sustains like here, you can definitely trade it on the long side, but be very aware of this. So as soon as you see a top, don't think twice before exiting. Hero Motor Corp, avoid this thing. This is not trying to go above this at all. Balakrishna also, avoid, kind of a distribution day. So even though I'm bullish on the auto index, the stocks will take some time. They need to break out and sustain properly. Not a lot of stocks have done that, but even a few stocks doing that is a good sign. They need to break out and then sustain here to take a long trade in these stocks. See, all of them are forming similar structures here. They just drifted on the downside, but this thing right here, this looks pretty nice. The supply is untested. So tomorrow you can look for longs in Apollo tires. So Apollo tires, Escorts and Aisha Motors is what I'll be watching for the long side in Nifty Auto. Right, this is Maruti was under heavy distribution all day. You could have shorted this one. Right, so Nifty Auto, I'm still quite bullish on Nifty Auto. Now Nifty IT. So see the view, the Nifty IT, we have discussed the down move here, and we have discussed why to avoid the down move, trading the down move yesterday. Right, I mean trading the down move today. We had discussed why to avoid it yesterday night. Right, so now it's again, it has broken out on the upside, right, and again contracting around this area. So you can definitely look for longs in Nifty IT again. Right, so this thing just doesn't take any breather. It just keeps moving up, and this is how it has been. See it when it starts moving up, but this time it's quite extended. So still quite jittery while talking about taking longs in IT stocks, but it is showing no signs of stopping. Look at all this accumulation here, showing absolutely no signs of slowing down. Some kind of top is being formed in TCS here, but again no movement on the downside. So unless there is movement on the downside, not really confirmed. Look at all this accumulation here, and then here. There's a lot of buying going on. They're just pumping this thing up in a straight line. Right, so again you can look for longs in Nifty IT. Take stocks. So one tip is that in IT stocks you will find a lot of stocks which have done this today. Right, don't take longs in this. Find stocks which did this day before yesterday and did this today. Right, accumulation base after that dip day before yesterday. After that dip yesterday. Right, so now these are good to move. These have already moved. Right, so this is how you can sort out Nifty IT. Now the last index is Nifty Fmcg. Again the bullish stocks which I had discussed, they've started moving out, right? So I think HUL moved nicely today. HUL tried to move in the morning itself, but now this range is maturing. So if you see, after all this volatility expansion, volatility started to contract here. Now breakout, pullback, and this is what you get on the upside, right? Nestle, again, if you check it out, Nestle was moving quite well in the morning today. So all this is tradable on the upside. You can chase these moves with a tight stop around the VWAP, and then you can get this high previous day high spikes, right? Of course, you exit something here and then exit everything here, right? So if I check more Nifty Fmcg stocks, Dabur is under quite a nice accumulation here. So tomorrow you can look for longs in Dabur until till this supply right here. So good 10 rupee move in the Dabur can be expected tomorrow. Nice little accumulation area right here. Other stocks are Colgate. Nothing in Colgate, still moving inside this range as we had discussed, right? And more FMCG stocks are Britannia. Nothing in Britannia yet, no movement on the upside, but this demand zone is protecting the stock. But still, this is a heavy distribution base, and this is making no attempt to move on the upside. So if you see the difference between Britannia and something like Nestle, Nestle is trading here, Britannia is trading here. Right? So there's a lot of this speaks volumes about the strength of the stock itself, right? So this is one tip which you can keep in mind. You can study the relative position of the current price with respect to the previous action if it's similar in the other stock. All right. So yeah. So the view is that I still expect Bank Nifty to be bearish. If not bearish, then definitely range bound, and it to take for it to take supplies from here. And if the Bank Nifty is bearish, then the IT stocks are setting up nicely for an up move. Energy stocks are doing good as well, and FMCG can also make some progress on the upside again, right? Bank Nifty is expected to be bearish tomorrow. Metals, I'll be bullish on the selected stocks only, which is Vedanta. That's it. Other metal stocks are getting bearish. So you see a trend. All these high beta sectors, they are getting bearish, while the low beta sectors are getting bullish again, right? So I think the joy was just for one day, and now the dark times are kind of returning. So keep yourself positioned in low beta defensive sectors, and try to avoid metals, autos, and banks for long trades tomorrow. I check chemical stocks. These are also high beta. You look, all these are falling on that. Look at all this distribution. This is very heavy distribution, and this is happening below the range. So Navin Fluorine, yeah, interesting structure here. You can short this thing on the downside. Look at the top. So this was the range of Navin Fluorine, and now it's has done the work. It has tapped into this area. Now it's good for a short trade after creating a very beautiful distribution day today, right? So you can take a short trade in Navin Fluorine. Alright, so that is it for today's market update video. Hopefully you guys are learning. Make sure that you like and share, and also comment down how I can improve these videos, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night, everyone.